Look, I've rewatched this series a lot, but is it as good as series 1? Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Doctor Who tier lists. You either love them or hate them. I've done a few on the channel and you guys seem to really like them, but today is the first time I'm revisiting an old tier list. I will be ranking each modern series of Doctor Who, except this time we have one new series added. That's right, the last time I did this was 3 years ago, and in that time we've had one more series. That's it. What a time to be a Doctor Who content creator. Anyway, let's get into it. Alrighty, so here's the list. Look at that. Wow, very exciting. Look at all of these series of Doctor Who. Now, before we get into it, I do need to have a disclaimer that this is just my opinion, and that's fine. Alright, you're allowed to have your opinion, but this is just mine, okay? So I genuinely like each one of these series. Some are definitely better than others, but as a whole, I love Doctor Who. Heck, I would make a whole YouTube channel about it. But you are absolutely allowed to have your own opinion, which is why I have left the link to this tier list in the description, and you can tweet your lists at me at CrispyPro. Do the list, take a screenshot, and send it my way on Twitter at CrispyPro. Because I want to see them, and they say that user interaction is good on YouTube. So let's start with Christopher Eccleston. Now, this series is one that I had to revisit when I started watching Doctor Who, because I started watching Doctor Who all the way over here, can you believe, in series 5. Like, The Lodger was my first episode. James Corden introduced me to Doctor Who, can you believe it? So, in saying that, I had to rediscover all of the David Tennant era, all of the Christopher Eccleston era. Like, I didn't watch that live. I really wish I was there for Rose all the way back in 2005, but I wasn't. I simply wasn't a Doctor Who fan back then. But I've said it before and I've said it again. I think series 1 is just an incredibly consistent bit of television. Some absolute highlights are 1, Billie Piper's Rose is just phenomenal casting, and 2, Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor. I mean, gosh, I wish we could have had 10 more seasons with him, but the fact that we just got the 1 makes this series all the more special. Some absolute standouts for me from this series would have to be the Empty Child Doctor Dances. I think that that's not only the best two-parter in this series, but it's one of the best two-parters in the entirety of the show, and an excellent jumping on point for anyone trying to get into Doctor Who, because it's creepy, it's weird, and it's a lot of fun, which is what Doctor Who is. But I mean, there's other highlights as well, like the finale, and the whole thing's just very consistent. It's consistently good, but in terms of a series as a whole, I think it's a beautiful production. So do I dare put it in S? Do we start off strong and put it in S? I'm going to say yes to the S. I think it's great. I think it's phenomenal. And usually when we have an S tier, we do like something we celebrate. I didn't prepare anything, so you guys can just have a little dance, okay? Alright, that's enough cringe for today, everyone. Moving on to Series 2. Whoa, before we go any further, we have to thank the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or stopping you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human that lives in this world who is going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. And that's why I'm excited to talk about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's very easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There is a link in my description that would be betterhelp.com/crispypro. Clicking that link not only helps support the channel, but it will give you 10% off your first month using BetterHelp, and you can connect to a therapist and see where you go from there. Because finding a therapist is a little like dating. If you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing in therapy, you can easily switch to a therapist for free without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, anything like that. I've had my fair share of mental health struggles and 100% recommend therapy and recommend BetterHelp. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Use the link in the description, and that's betterhelp.com/crispypro. Thank you again for BetterHelp for your service and for supporting this channel. Appreciate it. Anyway, back to the video. This one is probably one of my least favorite series of the modern era. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of 10 and Rose. I know a lot of you are. I know in the comments some people are going crazy right now. I understand the appeal of 10 and Rose, and a lot of people seem to really resonate. You know, it was this young romance. It was really cool. But for me, I just think, you know, sometimes it got in the way of the story sometimes. And I also don't think that New Earth was necessarily a brilliant series opener. But there are some fun episodes in there, like Tooth and Claw definitely freaked me out as a child. I mean, that werewolf transformation, come on. And of course, it goes without saying that David Tennant as the Doctor Doctor was one of the best things to happen in Doctor Who ever. I mean, the man was born for the role. He was a fan, and he just absolutely nailed it. Okay? He absolutely nailed it. So that's the highlight for Series 2, and I suppose that the Series 2 finale, like, really, it's up there with series finales. It's very iconic. Very, very iconic. But where to rate it? Look, I don't think it's as consistently good as Series 1, so it's not there. It's not A, and I don't think it'll be a C or a D. I'm gonna put it in B for now, and we might revisit it later. I say that every video, but then I never do. Series 3. Now we are cooking. This is one of my favorite series of Doctor Who. I think I've got a crush on Series 3. I do, and I'm happy to admit it. Martha Jones is one of the best additions to Doctor Who. I think she's an insanely good companion. Once again, I just wish they hadn't written her as being hung up on the Doctor and being jealous of Rose, and, you know, they kept on throwing in Rose references here. I just kind of wish there wasn't that romantic tension between Martha and the Doctor. You know, I kind of didn't buy it a lot of the time, because Martha's very much like an independent person. Like, she don't need no man. She don't need no time, Lord. But I mean, Series 3 has so many bangers. I mean, Blink, the highest rated episode on IMDb ever. Series 3, that's where she belongs. The not 1, not 2, but 3-part finale with the Master. I mean, John Sims' introduction. Damn, look, I've rewatched this series a lot, and it gets better each and every time. I'm not afraid to say that. But is it as good as Series 1? That's the question. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I don't think it's as consistently good as Series 1. We'll put it an A. It's close to being an S for me because of how much I love it, but I don't think technically is as good as Series 1. Oh dearie me, we are getting to Series 4 now. This is everyone's favorite. Do I agree? Do I think it's as good as everyone says it is? Well, let's break it down. The reintroduction of Catherine Tate's Donna Noble, I mean, 10 out of 10. When I watched The Runaway Bride during my rewatch of Doctor Who, the first time I watched it, I was like, that is an annoying character. Fun story, annoying character. And then they were like, oh, we'll bring her back for a whole series. Are you serious right now? Are you serious? And my goodness, props to Russell, because he made us all fall in love with Catherine Tate's Donna Noble again. That was insane. Partners in Crime is hilarious and an excellent reintroduction of the character. And it also has so much stuff with the late Bernard Cribbins, and that whole family dynamic, like the Noble family dynamic, is beautiful. Beautiful. Dare I say better than the Jackie and Rose relationship. Like, that whole Noble clan, like, they're just constantly fighting and bickering, but you can see throughout the series that there's so much love there, and you buy the family dynamic. Tennant is at his most Tennantness. Like, he is the most doctory he's ever been, and some people will complain about that, but I mean, like, he's just in the role now. He's really in the role now, and he absolutely crushes it. And how could I talk about Series 4 without the 2-part finale basically being the Avengers Endgame of Doctor Who? We haven't had an event like that since Series 4. Like, everyone came back, and it was epic. What can I say? It's nostalgia. Yes. Was the nostalgia deserved? I'm gonna say yes, because this was Russell T being like, all right, you know, here's the era I've built up over the past like 4 or 5 years, and here's your payoff. And my goodness, what a payoff. Series 4 is just so consistently good, and dare I say, as consistently good as Series 1. Yes, that's right. It's another S tier, so time to dance, boys. Oh, my knees. All right, moving on to the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who. Wow, wowee. They genuinely thought that the show wouldn't work once David Tennant left. They were like, there's no way we can continue on. And then Matt Smith came into the role as like the youngest person to ever be the Doctor, and he absolutely crushed it. My goodness, Series 5, I've said it a million times, it's a fairy tale. It's an absolute fairy tale. Like, it's the series arc of that series, like, you know, the whole crack in the wall thing. Can you put a crack in the wall there, Joey? That'd be sick. Yeah, do that. Thank you. Was so incredibly well done, and they had fresh new talent like Matt Smith. He's a baby in this series, and absolutely a baby. And of course they had Karen Gillan, who is now an international superstar, probably one of the most successful people post Doctor Who ever, dare I say. I don't know, maybe some people will be like, I don't know, Kylie Minogue's pretty successful. I'm talking about mainline companions in new Doctor Who. I think Karen Gillan has absolutely crushed it since then. But yeah, this series is an absolute dream. One of the best series openers ever with the 11th Hour. That one is definitely people recommend if they want to get into Doctor Who. I love the dynamic between the Doctor, Rory, and Amy, like that whole TARDIS team. That was great, like building the foundations of that. I mean, Vincent and the Doctor is in this series. Vincent and the Doctor, are you kidding me? And the finale is out of this world. So Moffat, he absolutely struck gold with this cast and all of his stories. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get exhausted again because I think it's another S. Don't worry, this video won't just be me putting in S series. I just genuinely think that these ones are banging, absolutely banging. All right, so anyway, let's dance. Series 6. Okay. So this is when I started watching Doctor Who with the rest of the world. Alright, so I caught up on all of these episodes, and now, for the rest of this, I've been a fan. Anyway, because of that, like, this was the first one I watched live with the rest of the world, I have such a nostalgia for this series, and it has my favorite episode of all time, The Impossible Astronaut and The Day of the Moon. I think that those episodes are insane, and the villain is insane, and, you know, it delves into the whole River Song plot, which really intrigued me, because I was like, wait, what? They introduced that all the way back here in Series 4, what's going on? But I think a lot of people are really let down by this series with episodes like, you know, The Curse of the Black Spot, and especially The Wedding of River Song, like being the final episode, kind of leaving a sour note in everyone's mouth. So on the whole, I don't think it's as consistent as Series 5 in the slightest. Like, the lows are much lower, but the highs they're huge. I mean, we've got the 2-part opener episodes that are banging, you know, A Good Man Goes to War, The Girl Who Waited, The God Complex, all incredible episodes in my eyes. But yeah, it does get let down by some of those lesser episodes, so it's not as consistent. I will admit I have a huge nostalgia for it and I've watched it a million times, but I've got to be honest with myself, I don't think it can be above a B. It's fine. It's a perfectly fine series of television with some absolutely corked episodes in there, but I'd be lying if I put it in A or an S, okay? I'm sorry. Now, Series 7, this one also cops a bit of flack, and I'm not sure why, because I think there are some really cool episodes in here. Asylum of the Daleks, I think I've literally watched at least 50 times. I love the direction of that episode. I understand it's not the best, but I have such a soft spot for it. And I don't know if you remember the whole thing with this series. They were like, each episode is going to be like a cinematic installment. You know, they all had the posters going, and they had the really weird like title sequences for the Series 7 Part 1 episodes that I'm glad they got rid of for Part 2, my goodness. So for the first half, it was 5 episodes, and I genuinely say, like, I like those episodes a lot, but I don't find myself going back to them that much. I have a lot of problems with The Angels Take Manhattan, which is the last episode where Amy and Rory go away. Like, I think it's beautiful and some excellent location shooting, but I think there's a lot of like plot holes and unanswered stuff in that episode that kind of irk me every time I watch it. But as a whole, like, this is Doctor Who being all shiny and bright and look how pretty we are. But I do think it's the weakest Matt Smith series. Can I say that? Moving towards the second half of the series, I really enjoyed the introduction of Clara, and the whole mystery about who is she, like what's going on. But unfortunately for me, and I think a lot of you will agree, that I think the whole mystery of Clara kind of got in the way of developing her as a character. Like, she was more of a plot point rather than a real human being, which is something they rectify in later series. But for Series 7, I think she's just kind of this mystery woman. So in saying that, I will put it in, I don't want to put it in C. I feel like that's pretty harsh. B. I'll put it in B. I'll put it in B for now. Okay. Moving on to Peter Capaldi. My goodness gracious me. We know him. We love him, and Series 8 was his introductory series. I know a lot of people that left after Matt Smith, which I think is sad. You know, they're like, oh, Peter Capaldi was too old, like, what is he doing? They kind of got used to the whole, you know, David Tennant, Matt Smith, young, handsome boy flying off in time and space, but Peter Capaldi, like, really feels alien. He feels alien and kind of brought that alien side back to the Time Lord known as the Doctor. And I bloody loved him for it. I think it's so good. And Series 8 really redeemed Clara for me, almost making Peter and Jenna my favorite TARDIS duo ever. I think they're brilliant together. Series 8 also saw the introduction of Missy. I really enjoyed the opening episode. There's just a lot to love with Series 8. So I think it's better than all those three. So I'm going to put it in A. I don't think it's an S tier because Series 8 does have In the Forest of the Shite, by the way. Automatically just can't be an S. I'm sorry. Okay, this is where it gets interesting, because for these next 5 series, I feel like a lot of people have a lot of complaints about each one of these series, which is a shame because they're all pretty damn good pieces of television, but I don't know where I'm gonna put them. So the 9th series, I really enjoyed what they were going for. Like, each week it was pretty much a 2-part episode. I thought that the opening was brilliant. I thought that the episode after that, like Under the Lake, was brilliant. The only real downside for me was Sleep No More. I think I like it more than the average person, but overall, like, it's not an episode that sits with me and I find it hard to rewatch. And also The Girl Who Died, Woman Who Lived 2-parter, I don't think is particularly strong, even though I enjoyed Maisie Williams' performance of that character. But I mean, come on, Series 9 has Heaven Sent in it. Like, that's some brownie points straight away. That episode is one of the best, if not the best episode in modern Who. The episode is like poetry, man. It's like poetry. So, because of that, I am going to have to put it in, it had Hellbent as well. Like, if I could have it in between here, I would. I find it funny how I haven't put anything in C or D. Look, I'm an optimistic guy, okay? I'll have to put it in B. Oh, that feels wrong. That feels wrong, but so does that. Even though that looks much better. Look at it. It's like a Rubik's Cube. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Now, moving on to the 10th series of Doctor Who. The introduction of Bill Potts and Nardole. I mean, this TARDIS trio, I don't think should have worked at all, but it definitely did for me. Pearl Mackie was brilliant. I think this was like one of her first TV roles. She did a lot of theater acting. They were an absolute natural and an absolute delight to have in Doctor Who. And same with Matt Lucas. Like, they got introduced briefly in a Christmas special. I'm like, Steven, can I come back pretty please? And they're like, oh, sure. And it just worked. It worked for me. And I think this series is very consistent, but I don't think the highs are as high as they could have been. I think it's a very consistent series up until the end, like the final two-parter, World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls, where they're like, oh yeah, we're Doctor Who and we make brilliant stories, by the way. Look, it's so boring if I just keep going B, but I think it's a B series. I think that's right. Is Series 8 Peter Capaldi's best series? I used to always say that Series 10 was, but rewatching it, I don't know. It's very good, but I don't know, dude. This is tough. This sucks. Alrighty, ladies and gents. Welcome to the Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who. A very contentious era of Doctor Who, okay? I know some people in the comments are going to be like, oh, finally, some episodes in the D tier. Ease up, guys. Ease the heck up. Because, spoiler alert, for the most part, I enjoyed each one of these series, but more for different reasons. But we'll start with what a lot of people think is Jodie Whittaker's worst series, Series 11. This was, for a long, long time, my least favorite series of Doctor Who. I think it was because it didn't have any interconnected stories. I didn't think the companions had that much development, and there weren't any two-parters, there weren't any returning monsters. I was like, oh, what is this show? It doesn't feel like Doctor Who. The one brilliant thing I think this series did was cast Jodie Whittaker. I think she is an absolute natural in the role. And as far as people we could get for a first female Doctor, I think Jodie was absolutely brilliant, and I'm genuinely sad that she's gone now. We've got this strange man again. But Series 11, yes, I think has a lot of problems, but on rewatch, I really enjoyed just how refreshing the series felt. I thought it was so refreshing. It sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, this series is unique and definitely a breath of fresh air from all of this, you know? Just because of how different it was, I think scared a lot of people. But on rewatch, I'm like, nah, this is fun. So I don't think I'll put it in D tier. I would kind of put it in between here. I think it's definitely bumped that up that much. Do I dare? Look, this whole episode just me being like, yeah, B, 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 B. Yeah, mid. They're not mid. Like, they're not mid-series. Don't take that out of context. I think all of Doctor Who's great, but some are obviously better than others. So, where are we gonna put you? I'll put you in B. I'll put you in B. Gosh, dare I say? It's the bottom of the Bs, okay? Bottom of the Bs. Now, Series 12. When this aired, I absolutely adored it. This was everything I was asking for from Series 11. I was like, what? You've done a complete 180, and I love it. We had the reintroduction of a series arc with the whole Timeless Child thing. We had the introduction of the Master, you know, returning monsters. Two-parters, big mysteries that keep me on week to week. There were some obvious misfires, like Orphan 55 and Praxeus. I really don't go back to that much. But, you know, we have Fugitive of the Jadoon, which was so exciting to watch on broadcast, and you know, Spyfall was also very exciting. So it was really, really exciting television. But now on rewatch, I don't really enjoy it as much. I don't go back to that one as much. You know, Series 11 kind of feels like this clean palette, you know, easy Doctor Who watching. But Series 12 kind of was, you know, living on this hype. So now my feelings towards Series 12 have kind of, they're not the same. They're not as brilliant as they were before. So, dude, I don't know what to do here. I don't think it's the worst series of Doctor Who, but technically I'll put it there. Oh, that feels wrong. It feels wrong, but I'm gonna do it because it's my channel, okay? Like and subscribe, please. All right, now here's a controversial take, all right? Here's a series that I haven't put in a tier list ever. Doctor Who Flux. This series was born in the pandemic. It's 6 episodes long, and it's one continuous story. It's an absolute mess, but I bloody love it. I think the introduction of John Bishop's character was great, and I think he's such a welcome presence in Doctor Who. And with Chris Chibnall, like, this is kind of what I expected his series to be. I really honestly think that, like, Series 11 and Series 12 should have all been one continuous story, like week to week to week, because I think this just worked for the Whittaker era. I don't know why, but I think it just did. The Halloween Apocalypse, brilliant, but I mean, the War of the Zontarans and Village of Angels, I was like, where have they been hiding this gem? You know, you were making this in the pandemic under the most harsh circumstances, and you are just spitting out pure gold like that. And so honestly, up until Village of the Angels, I was like, this series hasn't really missed for me. But then Survivors of the Flux came around, I was like, oh, that really wasn't the best episode. And then The Vanquishers had a lot to do by tying up everything, and I don't think they did a particularly good job with that finale. But as a whole, as a series, I love the concept. The execution at the end, maybe not the best, but I had so much fun with this series that, dare I say, it's Jodie Whittaker's best series, so I'm not gonna put it in B, I'll put it in A. I enjoy the Flux as much as I enjoy Series 3 and Series 8, okay? Don't leave your dislikes, it's my opinion, okay? I think it's fun and you should check it out. But anyways, I've been rambling on long enough. Please use the link in the description to take a screenshot of your tier list and send it my way on Twitter at CrispyPro. I would love to see what you guys come up with. Hopefully you have some hot takes, hopefully you have some good takes, but yeah, I'm keen to see them. That's going to do. Please like this video, please subscribe if you've not already, and I will see you very, very shortly. Allons-y! Oh, my knees.